a lot of resistance coming from the IDF. Why? Well, the IDF chief of staff canceled a visit to the United States because he did not want to go to the United States without a clear vision to end the war. He's not making these harsh statements in across mainstream media, but his actions are proving what he actually wants: a ceasefire. He was pressing on the political leadership to reach a political solution, a diplomatic solution, and have a ceasefire. He was pressing towards that direction, but Benjamin Netanyahu did not make that decision. In addition, the IDF, they don't really know what's being required from them anymore. In Gideon's chariots, they went ahead with this campaign and tried to achieve the objectives, occupying 75% of the Gaza Strip and continuing with the operations where the Palestinian resistance is. But they withdrew Division 98 now. So where are things going exactly? From his perspective, the IDF isn't capable. That is known on the ground as a fact. Israel suffered huge losses in Gaza. They're trying to force conscription on the Orthodox community. They're failing so far, and they're unable to address the huge crisis in relation to people refusing to serve in the army and people never wanting to serve in the IDF ever again. On the other hand, the families of the prisoners of war are increasing the tone to levels that have never been seen in Israel before, blaming Israel outright of the Holocaust. Today, another one said that it's Israel that is the enemy, said that he feels Israel is the enemy, but not Hamas or the PIJ in Gaza, because of what Israel is doing, and that the political leadership doesn't have any vision for the future. And that's something that some analysts in Israel believe is linked to messianic or even religious beliefs that Netanyahu might have, because there is no explanation. Firstly, in relation to the political side of things, Benjamin Netanyahu can go to a ceasefire now without having a direct threat to his government and coalition. He was offered a safety net by the Israeli opposition. Therefore, he can go, and even when the Israeli Knesset goes back from the break in 3 months, he will still have a safety net to continue his government up until early elections. Then there were statements coming from Netanyahu himself just several weeks back that we are looking to make very important decisions. He even met with some of his harshest critics from the families of the prisoners of war, and there were feelings amongst these people that he is actually headed towards a solution. He's being backed now by the United States administration, who are saying we need to look for an alternative to have a deal and get the people back. We need to find an alternative to get the people back without a deal with Hamas, because according to them, Hamas doesn't want a deal. Although Hamas offered them a deal from the beginning and even before the beginning many times, and Israel refused. And whenever there were deals, it was Israel who broke these deals and the ceasefires and went ahead to a full-blown starvation campaign in Gaza. How is Benjamin Netanyahu planning to do that? He's not outright saying we want military rule over Gaza. He's not outright saying that we want to build settlements, but we know very well that key elements in his government, his key allies, top aides in the government, want that very clearly. Some of them are now saying, cut the oxygen off of the Gaza Strip, as if they had the option to stop air from going into the Gaza so the people that don't breathe, they would have done that. But Netanyahu, in his statement as well, he said that they will find a mechanism to allow humanitarian aid to the civilian population where there is no fighting between the Israeli army and Hamas, so that they can split the civil society from Hamas. Again, another joke, because Israel always targeted the civilians primarily. Israel's main target is civilians. Israel's main aim is genocide and ethnic cleansing. What would that mean? That would mean that Israel would continue with the starvation campaign, we would have thousands of people, if not tens of thousands, dying every single day for a certain period up until the majority of the people are killed in this genocide and starvation campaign. This is not some sort of a dystopian anticipation or anything as such, or even pessimism. This is the reality. Thousands of people will start to die every single day, if not tens of thousands at some point, up until everyone is killed either by Israeli starvation or hunger, or as a direct result of the Israeli genocide in Gaza. How? Well, the countries that are saying we're going to recognize a Palestinian state in September or late September, they're basically giving Israel several months, well over a month, to continue what they're doing now. More and more people will be dying in this period or murdered as a direct result of this genocide. And they're still covering up for Israel. Some of them were saying if Israel doesn't reach a ceasefire, if they do reach a ceasefire, they might reconsider the option. However, what we do understand is that there is some sort of political and diplomatic pressure, nowhere near to the level that is expected and desired and needed, urgently needed. But there is some movement there, and that is primarily due to a result of the popular pressure against this genocide, against Zionism, against the humiliating and shameful complicity and participation of many countries with Israel in this genocide. So, what can happen if Israel does not reach a deal, which is now clearly being an option, in the words of Benjamin Netanyahu and the American administration too, Steve Witkoff and Trump too? Well, there could be potentially, especially from the countries that are still supporting Israel, more diplomatic pressure. So even Israel could be viewed as an even more of a pariah state. And mind you, in Israel, now they're talking about how bad they're doing, how bad their image is globally. And many reports in Israel are talking about the fact that it's irreversible now. There is no way to fix Israel's image across the world. What does that mean? People are saying our country is the enemy. We have irreparable damage being done. On the other hand, a cult blindly following Benjamin Netanyahu and co. in an endless war and an endless genocide. You have a huge crisis internally in Israel. The families of the prisoners of war and many in Israel are saying that our prisoners of war are going to be dying as a result of our policies in Gaza. If they expand the operations, especially to areas where Israel suspects some of its prisoners of war are held by the Palestinian resistance, that's a death sentence. The Palestinian resistance will not be releasing anyone alive if there is no deal.